Welcome to Scaling Sustainability Impact, a Siemens podcast for industry where you can find interesting conversations about the state of sustainability around Siemens, our customers, and our partners. This time we have two voices from Siemens Digital Industries, Eryn Devola and Magnus Edholm, to talk about sustainability and how businesses transform into sustainable digital enterprises. Eryn is the head of sustainability at Siemens Digital Industries, and Magnus is the head of digital enterprise marketing at Siemens Digital Industries. So far in this series, we've talked about some of the design aspects to sustainability, but that's only a fraction of our work here at Siemens, let alone what our customers are trying to achieve. What do you hear from customers with regard to their business priorities and sustainability?
Well, if I could start there, Nick, we talk with customers continuously, and I think it's fair to say that more or less every company are under cost pressures. You want to make sure that you do the most of what you have. And also in that area, you want to keep your production capacity high and make sure you're producing with quality. And at the same time, also obviously having things in mind that new technology is coming along. Everybody talks about AI. And I think it's pretty important that companies actually go down that lane and open up for the use of new technologies. And as I come to think of it, AI and perhaps the co-pilot, industrial co-pilot, Nick, that could be a scope for your next podcast, because I think that's something one can elaborate on quite some time. But in all of this, the cost pressure, producing with quality, be smarter, trying to save energy, work with the resources that we have in a probably the better way. And I'm sure that you, Eryn, can add something to this, I guess.
You know, when we think about sustainability and when our customers think about sustainability, they're often coming at it from really big and diverse problems. So they've seen new regulations coming, new places that they want to operate. And then we've got this regulatory landscape that really is starting to prioritize environmental impacts and impacts on people and societies around them. So they see that pressure. They also see need to control climate change, and they're living in an environment that's more and more volatile and a little bit less predictable. So looking for ways to drive some stability into what they're doing and some more resiliency into their supply chains, but also into their operating locations and procedures. And so we see this driven a little bit by resource scarcity, a little bit by some of the national disasters and things that they need to recover from. But the other driver that they see is consumers really caring a lot more about environmental topics and driving that to the front and center, especially for our customers who work directly with consumers. And so we're seeing these drivers really helping our customers and ourselves think about sustainability in a bigger and broader way, really looking at it as a key lever for long-term viability for their business moving forward, which I think is an important thing to think about, that being sustainable and profitable are both together important to be viable in the long term.
In one of our events this year, Magnus, you asserted that waste is a design flaw. Could you explain a little bit about that? What did you mean? Do you mean the design of the product, production processes, something more?
Yes, Nick. And today, it's important to understand that 80% of a product's environmental impact is based on decisions made in the design phase, very much upstream. It's not necessarily the production processes. Obviously, they have an impact also, the supply chains for sure. But the smarter you work with your product as you develop it, it could be the choice of material, using new technologies to kind of make the products smaller. Those are the things that I believe companies need to work smarter with. Reduce the resources consumed, as I said. Perhaps also kind of design for disassembly, because today we are throwing away a huge amount of the products we are using. I think from a battery point of view, we're recycling only 5% of everything. And products that we are consuming, I think 13%, only 13% are being recycled or reused. So we're throwing away a lot of value more or less every day. And I totally believe that we need to drive more, let's say, a circular economy, that we are actually using those resources that we have on this planet, because they are actually limited. And in all of this, we have solutions that are amazing. We have smart systems supporting designers in their work and working with the digital twin in the facets of product development. Everything can be simulated. Using new methodologies of producing parts and components can actually drive sustainability, making our products smarter. And with that, of course, making us all happy, because at the end of the day, we're all in this together and we need to work smarter. And our answer is combine the real and digital world, work with the digital twin, and by doing so, making our products better for all of us.
I really love this idea of thinking about waste as a design flaw. I spent so much of my career in factories where we spend so much time looking at how to eliminate waste in the production process, and this has long been a focus there. And I think, what Magnus said there is so important, that you have to be thinking about how I can drive efficiency and performance into the product so much earlier. And this is why it's so important that as we understand data, as we get more access to data, as Magnus mentioned before, using new tools that are available to us to make insights from this data, that we can better inform that design process. And I think that that's really a key lever for the future and for ensuring we have sustainable products coming out of sustainable factories being used for optimal long life cycles.
So the benefits of having data earlier, understanding the problems a lot earlier, is a message we've had at Siemens for a long time. It's important for a lot of areas of design and production. But how does sustainability change the calculus for how companies are looking to evolve in that space?
So, one interesting way that we've been talking about lately that sustainability changes things is when you look at having to track products and understand what's happening really late in the design or in the use phase, you really are shifting the data that you have further and further to the right. But if I have this data, I can use that data to inform further and further to the left or in the design process. And that's really what we talk about it really being integral to the design process, integral to the production, so that you can have that right end of life treatment, so that you can understand that I'm designing it for an extended life cycle, that I'm designing it for a retrofit. I'm designing it to be recycled when it's done or to be reused in a new way. If I don't do that at the beginning, I can't bolt that on in the end. I can't wait till that battery or that product has reached its end of its life cycle to then figure out what I'm going to do with it. I have to begin with the end in mind. And that's what we talk about bringing this real and digital world together, is taking that real world data that we'll be able to get from this product passport technology and using that in the digital world to help design a better product, better understanding how it's performing there. So I think that that's really one of the exciting opportunities that sustainability opens up, that we can make more intentional decisions about products so much earlier than ever before.
So another topic that we talk about quite often is, at least in the written material, is sustainable digital enterprises. What do we mean when we say a company is becoming a sustainable digital enterprise? What makes a business a sustainable digital enterprise?
I would say, first of all, sustainable in this context is probably not only related to the environmental aspect. Sustainable here means that you are, as a company, effective and that you will be in the game for a very long time. You want to have a company that can react on changes in your supply chain. We've all been there a couple of years ago. We all know how that affected the industry. We have challenges out there. We have, for example, the lack of talent. We need to get more people in the company. And if you don't find that, you might want to turn to technology to support you in this, and by doing so, become sustainable. In addition, being a digital enterprise, taking advantage of what Eryn just said, collecting data, understanding data, and use data to continuously optimize everything you do, also sustainability, obviously. That is, to me, what a true sustainable digital enterprise actually is all about. To make sure that you combining the real and the digital world, looking at the life cycle of the product and production, making sure that everyone involved in the product development and the process planning has got access to the right data at the right moment in time to take that right decision, and by doing so, build the best product and create the most effective manufacturing environment, and that is to me sustainability. And also, in addition to that, the data that we have, we need to take advantage of it. The digital twin supports us in all of this. We have a horizontal flow of data between all the stakeholders, but also what's increasingly importantly for also sustainability is the IT-OT convergence, or we talk about connecting the top floor with the shop floor. And that enables things such as traceability of a certain product, be it in the food and beverage industry, be it in electronics, be it in clothing industry. You want to make sure you track things. And it comes back again, the consumers are interested in knowing what the product actually is built of. What does it contain? What the thing I'm eating, is that something that's healthy for me? So, and also the sustainability factor. You want to know that this product is actually green and I can use it. So there's a lot of things in a sustainable digital enterprise. And one thing it does is driving sustainability. And we said it before, it's important for all of us.
I think just maybe to add a little bit on what you said there, Magnus, I love when you talk about the shop floor to the top floor and then the top floor back to the shop floor, because being able to take that data, turn it into real actionable insights only helps businesses make better decisions, both for sustainability and for profitability at the same time. And then taking those insights back down and having the people who are making the products, designing the products, understand those higher level impacts really makes us all collectively so much more intelligent in being intentional and maybe eliminating that design flaw of waste that Magnus was talking about earlier.
It's great to hear that it's such a comprehensive solution, but bring it to sustainability very specifically. Are a lot of companies just doing it because it's a form of just a requirement that they have to comply with? Are companies implementing sustainability today successfully? Is there any hesitation or apprehension about doing that and balancing it with those other business goals? I'm kind of curious what's just happening in the market right now.
So what we see are customers who are really at very different places on their sustainability journey or during their transformation. So we see some companies where maybe their customers are asking them for more sustainable products. They've got regulation coming and they're grappling to understand how do they look at these two things of sustainability and profitability maybe more separately at the beginning. But what we find with more mature companies and those that are adopting a little bit more of an end-to-end approach, they're finding that the most sustainable solution is often also the most profitable solution. And what we see as companies mature is they first find where those two circles in their Venn diagram overlap and really start to take action and move there. And then what we see with our more mature customers is them laying out that as the intention at the beginning and really, as we talked about before, starting with that end output of sustainability, of profitability, of speed, of resilience, all of these outcomes bundled at the beginning. And that's where they can get the biggest bang from their buck by solving for it at the beginning. And the benefits that we see here are really quite varied. When we look at our portfolio in general, we really look at how we can contribute to sustainability in three pretty broad categories. We know that companies have Paris Agreement commitments they're working toward, that they have limitations in emissions, and decarbonization and energy efficiency are two big levers that bring you closer to sustainability. But often, especially with energy efficiency, it's really married with overall cost reduction and improved profitability. The next area that we see and that's usually where we see companies start really looking at how do I become more energy efficient? How do I decarbonize? Because I'm being pushed there by either my own shareholders, by regulation, by my customers, or by our corporate goals. The next area we're seeing people really work in is this resource efficiency and circularity, where they're looking at beyond carbon, how are we contributing to watersheds, to use of critical and limited materials, and how do we either make those materials last longer? How do we use them again? How do we stop using them altogether and maybe look at ways to virtualize products that we use in a physical way today? And again, this is an area that's a little bit less mature, but this is where that waste that we talked about before is so important, because you really see so many different types of waste that you can eliminate here. And again, as you get more mature here, you see that cost savings and sustainability improvement become quite linked. And then the third area that I don't know that we talk about enough at Siemens, and we're trying to talk about a little bit more because it is so important to us, is making sure that we're putting people and the societies in which we're operating at the front of what we're doing, making sure that as we conduct business, the partners that we have and the projects that we really promote are helping to make life better on this planet for the people who live on it. And that's really, kind of the ways that we think we can help companies make more positive impacts. But really, all companies are at different places on this journey, and everyone has to contribute, right? We'll not save the planet one person or one enterprise at a time.
Well, it's heartening to hear that so much is going on and that companies are kind of progressing through this cycle. Do you have any cool stories from customers or even our own factories about how this is working out in the real world?
Absolutely. We've got quite a few. One of the stories we have developed is from our own factory, actually, in Erlangen, the Gerätewerk Erlangen, electronic work in Erlangen. And they're more like, it's like a brownfield optimization. It's a factory that has been on this ground for quite some time. They have to develop their sustainability or getting more effective on the ground that they have. They can't go bigger, but you got to use what they have. And by adapting technologies such as AI, the industrial metaverse, I'm sure you've all heard of, new manufacturing methodologies, and also such a thing as Energy Manager, which is a solution that we have, a SaaS solution. They're able to measure the consumption of energy in the facilities and pinpoint down areas that are consuming large amounts of energy and seeing what are the reasons this is happening. And just by doing so, they are continuously optimizing the energy use in the factory. And I guess it's important to know that if you want to improve something, it could be a sports result or the energy consumption, you need to measure where you are, because if you don't have your standpoint, it's very difficult to know if you're going better or worse. So that's an excellent factory or excellent visit. And we are actually inviting our customers, partners to actually go to Erlangen and take a look at this amazing facility where you really get this hands-on digitalization experience. You can go in there, you can talk to the people in the factory, you can actually go into the factory. You can see that those things are not just what we talk about. We have said it so many times that we drink our own champagne and we eat our own dog food, but this is actually what we are doing in Erlangen, in Amberg, in Bad Neustadt, where we are driving sustainability in the product development and also in production, using the IT/OT convergence, the digital twin to optimize everything. And as Eryn said, no company can do it on their own. I mean, also no country can do it on their own. We need to work together. We build those important ecosystems and learn from each other. And one of learning is actually to visit a factory of Siemens, because I would say we're pretty good at what we're doing.
Along that same thread about really looking for partners in maybe new and different places, one customer story that always sits with me is that of AB InBev. They're a very big distributor of beverages, and they make a lot of beer, as it turns out. And one of the things that they did is they said, hey, we've got a lot of great ideas. We know how to make and bottle products, but what are we missing? What are the new generation? What are these young startups coming up with that we can learn from? And they started an incubator. And through that incubator, they got connected with a company called Akanoke. And Akanoke does controlled environment agriculture. And they had done some work with leafy greens, and they had looked and said, you know what, we think hops is a problem that we can solve. And hops are a very difficult crop to grow. They're very susceptible to conditions. And what you find at a typical brewery is they have about 18 months supply of hops, because there's just the supply chain is very uncertain and they can suffer from scarcity. So Akanoke, this small startup company working with a much larger installed company with AB InBev, put a factory right beside the brewery to provide them with fresh hops that they manufacture right beside, taking up the same space that they used to use to store hops in. And this in and of itself is a great story. However, my favorite part of it is by putting these two facilities right beside each other, they found some other benefits. Wastewater from the brewing process that they don't use in the product, they can use to water the hops. Also, off-gassing from brewing beer creates carbon. That carbon is needed to grow the hops. So both the wastewater and the waste carbon from the brewing process now have a productive solution within the controlled environment agriculture. And for me, this is just a brilliant way to capture some of these waste streams and turn waste into a resource for another product. And I think these things happen when you bring people together in new ways. You bring people together who you would not have put together, this small startup company with this much larger established company. And that's what we really see, is that, you know, no one company can create a fully circular solution, but 4 or 5 companies together can do that by taking their competencies, by taking the thing that they bring to the table and democratizing the data among themselves and really sharing in maybe new and unique ways moving forward.
I think that is a great point to wrap our conversation on, and we'll be back soon to finish this discussion on sustainability in the digital enterprise. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the second half of this conversation with Eryn and Magnus. And in the meantime, check out the links in the description to learn more about these interconnected topics.